Hello everyone. Today I will be taking the second session on 46 years of previous year question of Indian economy. And in this series, we are covering question from 1979 to 2024. So that is the number of years we will cover the question. And let me once again tell you that these questions have been subcategorized into 5 units. And we are starting with the unit number 5, which is tertiary sector of Indian economy. And in this, we have already done part 1, which we done, and now we are on the part 2. So without wasting much time, so let's start with the question beginning from here where we left in the session 1. This is a question from 1989. The question is, real owner of the company are. तो कंपनी का रियल ऑनर कौन होता है? ऑप्शन ए डिवेंचर होल्डर, ऑप्शन बी डायरेक्टर ऑफ द कंपनी, ऑप्शन सी इक्विटी शेयर होल्डर्स, एंड ऑप्शन डी बियरर बॉन्ड होल्डर. नाउ एज यू नो, द डिवेंचर होल्डर आर एक्चुअली लेंडर, यानी कि इन्होंने उधार दिया है. That is a wrong question. Bond holder, these are also a wrong option because bond holder are also lenders, so they are not the owner actually. Now we are left with 2 options: director of the company and equity shareholder. Actually, director of the company are appointed by the equity shareholder, and equity shareholder are the real owner of the company. Therefore, our right answer here is option C. So this was a question from the year 1989. Moving to the next question. This is a question from 1995. Let's read the question first. Which one of the following is not an instrument of selective credit control for India? तो selective credit control का कौन सा इंस्ट्रूमेंट नहीं है? Let's read our option. Regulation of consumer credit, that is option number A. Option number B, rationing of credit. Option number C, margin requirement, and option number D, variable cash reservation. Now, if you know the quantitative and qualitative tool of monetary policy, if you have studied in your monetary policy unit of Indian economy, cash reserve ratio and SLR, statutory liquidity ratio, along with open market operation are quantitative method. They regulate quantum of money supply in the economy, but they do not decide which sector will get it, which sector will not get it. And the question here is asking about selective credit control, यानी कि इन मेथड से किसी सेक्टर में क्रेडिट मिलेगी, किसमें नहीं मिलेगी. तो रेगुलेशन ऑफ कंज्यूमर क्रेडिट एक्चुअली डिसाइड, बिकॉज इफ यू सेट कंज्यूमर क्रेडिट क्या स्टैंडर्ड्स वगैरह होंगे, इससे किस सेक्टर को मिलेगी, किसको नहीं मिलेगी, आप डिटरमाइन कर सकते. रैशनिंग ऑफ क्रेडिट, व्हिच नेम इज रैशन, किसको क्रेडिट मिलेगी या नहीं मिलेगी. सो दिस इज आल्सो ए रॉन्ग ऑप्शन. देन यू हैव मार्जिन रिक्वायरमेंट. इफ द रेगुलेटर सेट्स मार्जिन रिक्वायरमेंट, लेट्स से फॉर गोल्ड लोन दिस, और लेट्स से फॉर कॉर्पोरेट क्रेडिट इज 20%, 30%. इफ यू चेंज दैट, द क्रेडिट फ्लो टू दैट सेक्टर विल बी चेंज. इट मींस सेलेक्टिव क्रेडिट कंट्रोल होगा. किसी एक सेक्टर को क्रेडिट मिलेगी अगर उस सेक्टर का मार्जिन रिक्वायरमेंट कम कर दिया जाए, या अगर किसी सेक्टर का मार्जिन रिक्वायरमेंट बढ़ा दिया जाए तो उस सेक्टर को क्रेडिट नहीं मिलेगी. तो इस तरीके से ये ऑप्शन भी गलत है. द वेरिएबल कैश रिजर्व रेशियो इज एक्चुअली ओनली डिटरमाइन द क्वांटम. इट डज नॉट डिसाइड कि किस सेक्टर को मिलेगी या किस सेक्टर को नहीं मिलेगी. इसलिए ये आपका सही ऑप्शन है. लेट्स रीड. सो वेरिएबल रिजर्व रेशियो, कैश रिजर्व रेशियो इज एम टू कंट्रोल ओनली वॉल्यूम ऑफ क्रेडिट. कितनी क्रेडिट जनरेट होगी, बट किस सेक्टर को मिलेगी, बट नॉट पर्पज फॉर क्रेडिट फॉर विच बैंक्स गेट लोन. तो इट डज नॉट डिसाइड कि किस पर्पज के लिए लोन मिलेंगे या नहीं मिलेंगे. Therefore, our option in the last question was option A. Let's move to the next question. Now here we have a question from 1995 once again. Bank rate implies the rate of interest. Bank rate, कौन सी interest rate? Let's read the options. Paid by Reserve Bank of India on the deposit of commercial bank. Now, if you know this, this is actually your reverse repo. This is the rate which RBI is placed to the commercial bank on their deposit. Charged by bank on loans and advances. This is, you know, bank rate is not actually the rate. These were earlier called, these rates were earlier called base rate, you know, prime lending rate. Now it's also called, now it is linked to, you know, marginal cost of lending, etc. So this is not a relevant option here. This is incorrect. Then payable on bond. Now payable on bond, that is called actually coupon rate, and this is not the bank rate. Now we are left with option D, which is at which the Reserve Bank of India discounts the bills of exchange. So this is here the most appropriate option. So this is the rate which RBI uses for actually long-term credit to commercial banks. So your correct option here is option D. The bank rate is the rate at which RBI provides refinancing facility to commercial bank. These bank rate, a benchmark rate which RBI buys or delivers discounts, bills of exchange or other commercial paper eligible for the purchase. So if you know, actually at the time when the question came, bank rate was the benchmark rate used to decide the rate at which bank used to lend. because repo rate did not exist at that point in time. Later, repo and reverse repo facility was probably introduced, and then it became, sort of a benchmark rate. Now, let's read another question from the 1995, which is consider the following: Industrial Finance Corporation of India, Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India, Industrial Development Bank of India, and Unit Trust of India. The correct sequence in which the above were established. Now, this is in year 1995. I would say this is a very factual question, and this also tells you, when you look at this question, itne factual question 1995 mein aate the, and over the period, as I mentioned in last video also, the examination have become much more analytical and it requires understanding. This, however, sort of stresses on the memory aspect of examination. So the correct sequence here is actually IFCI, which is your July 1948. Then you have ICSI 1955. Then you have IDBI in July 1964 and UTI, Unit Trust of India, 1963. And the correct option here is option A. So that is the correct sequence. But however, I wouldn't stress that you need to know this, because I do not expect this kind of question anymore. However, if certain institution has been set up in recent year, that you can read, but not about, these institutions. Let's read another question. As a part of liberalization program and with a view to attract foreign exchange, the government and RBI have devised two schemes known as FCNR-A and FCNR-B. Right? So FCNR stands here for foreign currency non-resident deposit, and there were two schemes, FCNR-A and FCNR-B. Which one of the following are true regarding the two schemes? This is a question from year 1995. Now let's read these statements. Statement number 1. Under scheme A, RBI bears exchange rate fluctuation. So is scheme A, RBI bears the exchange rate fluctuation. Under scheme B, other banks are to meet the difference in exchange rate fluctuation, and both the schemes stand withdrawn now. Only scheme A has been withdrawn. So, and we have to, see which of the following statements are correct about the two schemes. Now, here, let me explain this. In FCNR A scheme, it is actually RBI which used to bear the risk. And the scheme was launched. However, this is, somewhere this scheme led to problem, because the rupee, as you know, on an average, depreciates. And that has always been true. You have also seen this happening in this year, where rupee has depreciated from roughly, I would say, 83 sort of level to against the dollar to now closer to, 88. So it is between 87 and 88 somewhere, and it is closer now to 88. So that, the scheme was launched to attack foreign currency, in the country, Forex. And in scheme A, RBI used to bear the risk, and that later became a problem, because when the currency depreciated, RBI had to meet that difference, and that became a liability for RBI. And therefore, while both the schemes were launched, later the scheme A was actually withdrawn. Both the scheme has not been, so you have, under scheme A, RBI bears exchange rate fluctuation, which is, correct. Under scheme B, other banks are to meet the difference in exchange rate fluctuation. This is also correct. Both the schemes stand withdrawn. This is incorrect, because only scheme A was later withdrawn. Only scheme A has been withdrawn. So this is also correct. And therefore, your correct option is 1, 2, and 4, which is, your option D. So this is your correct option. So scheme A was withdrawn. So I would, looking at this question, I would want you to look at, foreign currency non-resident deposit to be sure that what are the provisions. And actually, it could be asked, given that here we are facing, exchange rate volatility, it could come as a question in 2025. Let's look at next question from the year 1996. The question reads, hawala transaction relate to the payment. Hawala transaction hai kya? Right? You must have read about hawala transaction in newspaper. On and off iske investigation वगैरह आते रहते हैं. A, received in rupees against overseas currency and vice versa without going through the official channel. So received in rupees against overseas currency, vice versa without going through official channel. Okay. Seems okay, but let's read other option. Received for the sale transfer of share without going through established stock exchange. Hawala, as you know, does not have anything to do with this, established stock exchange, etc. So this option is your wrong. Received as commission for services rendered to overseas investor, buyer, seller in assisting them to get over the red tape or getting preferential treatment. This is also, a commission, etc. is not what is hawala is all about. This is also wrong. Made to the political party or individual for meeting election expense. This is also, a very irrelevant option. It is not an anything. So we are left with option A, which is received in rupees against overseas currency and vice versa. So without getting into the official channel. So whatever the foreign currencies related regulation, for example, only banks and certain other institutions are allowed to deal in foreign currency, and you have to go through that to exchange Indian currency to foreign currency and foreign currency to Indian currency. However, there is a illegal practice of hawala where you can exchange, foreign currency to INR, Indian rupees, and Indian rupees to foreign currency. However, this bypasses the official regulated channel. So this is without going through your official channel. And here your correct option is option A. So I hope this clarifies your concept. Now you know about hawala transaction. And now moving to the next question. This is from the year 1997. The sum of which of the following constitute broad money in India? If you have gone through the unit on money and money supply and banking, you would have read the concept of narrow money and broad money. And as you go from narrow money to broad money, the number, the type of money which is included keeps on expanding. So let's read this, options, and then we will, discuss about the answer. Currency with public. Now, currency with public is, also included in the narrow money, and we are talking about broad money. So this is, correct. Demand deposit with the bank. Demand deposit with the banks are included in broad money. That is also correct. Time deposit with the bank. These are actually also included with the bank. And the other deposit with RBI. This is also included in the broad money. And when you're talking about broad money, we are talking here about, M3, as we call it, right? And if you talk about narrow money, that is called M0. So here, all the four options, the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is mentioned here, are actually included in broad money of India. Therefore, your correct option is C. So broad money includes currency with the public, demand deposit with the banks, time deposit with the banks, and other deposit with RBI. So I hope you are clear about broad money, and this is a question which can come because I know this is where you need to remember everything. A little bit concept here, but mostly about remembering. But it is something which you need to just quickly revise before the examination so that you can reproduce. If you see these options, you can correctly mark them in the examination. The accounting year of Reserve Bank of India is. Interesting question. I would say not a lot of context to test here, but this is from the year 1998. So what sort of factual question they can ask. April, March, July, June, October to September, and January to December. Now, I just want to tell you that the accounting year of Reserve Bank of India has gone through changes over the year. And in the last change, it actually went ahead and aligned with the accounting year of the government, and which is also widely followed, which is, April to March. So now the accounting year of Reserve Bank of India, like the banks and like the government, it starts on 1st of April and ends on March 31st. So your correct option is this. Now let's look at another question. Which one of the following is the correct sequence of decreasing order of given currencies in terms of their values in Indian rupees? So the question from year 1990 is asking you, इनमें से ये जो करेंसीज का ऑप्शन दिए हुए हैं, इसमें डिक्रीजिंग ऑर्डर में किस करेंसी की वैल्यू इंडियन रुपीस के अगेंस्ट ज्यादा है? एंड हमारे पास जो ऑप्शन यहाँ पर दिए गए हैं वो यूएस डॉलर, कैनेडियन डॉलर, न्यूजीलैंड डॉलर एंड हांगकांग डॉलर. And if you actually go and look at the value of these currencies, as you know, that US dollar is almost always in news, and right now it is closer to, I would say 88. That is the level right now. So that is one. I don't know about 1998, but I'm going to do this question assuming that it was being asked right now. So US dollar is 88, and the other thing I know is Canadian dollar is I think closer to somewhere around sort of 60. New Zealand dollar I don't know, but I know for sure that Hong Kong dollar is closer to 11 or 12, something like that. So this is the lowest, and I actually know US dollar is the highest, and the Canadian dollar is 60, and probably New Zealand dollar is somewhere closer to maybe 50 sort of level. So this is something which you would have to check exact number, but then your correct option is A. So I would say this kind of question could be asked again, because this year the rupee is depreciating, and primarily against US dollar. UP is maintaining its level against other currency, but it is the US dollar which is depreciating. So it could come in 2025. They could ask the same question actually, and it would be really difficult to answer unless you have seen this kind of question in the previous year. So I would want you to go look at US against Indian rupees value against US dollars, Canadian dollars, New Zealand dollars, Hong Kong dollar, and also please check the value against euro and yen, which is Japanese currency. So euro and yen ke against bhi aap check kariye, because I could see this kind of question coming this year, just to test whether you are aware about Indian rupees value and all the debate that Indian rupees is depreciating in US dollar but not against other currency. तो ये क्वेश्चन इस साल आपको देखने को मिल सकता है, तो प्लीज यू नो. Now let's look at this question from the year 1999. Let's first read the question. The farmers are provided credit from a number of sources for their short-term, long-term needs. Absolutely correct. The main sources of credit to the farmers include. तो फार्मर्स को लॉन्ग टर्म और शॉर्ट टर्म सोर्स के लिए क्रेडिट मिलती है कई सोर्सेस से. कौन से इसमें से मेन सोर्सेस हैं? नाउ ऑप्शन ए, रिसर्च प्राइमरी एग्रीकल्चर कोऑपरेटिव सोसाइटी, कॉमर्शियल बैंक्स, RRB, which stands for Regional Rural Bank, and the private money lenders. Seems okay, right? Because if you know, primary agriculture cooperative society actually are cooperative institution which work at the lowest level, and they do provide loans for short-term needs of farmers. Commercial bank, they do provide under the priority sector norms. Commercial bank need to provide credit to farmers, so that is also correct. Then there are regional rural bank which has been actually set up to provide credit to rural households. So there are mostly farmers in rural household, so that is also correct, and private money lender do provide. So that seems okay, but let's read other option also. The NABARD, the RBI, commercial bank, and the private money lender. Now, if you know, NABARD does provide credit, but it's not lending to the farmer directly, right? So NABARD provides refinancing facility to regional rural bank and cooperative bank, etc. So therefore this becomes wrong, and once again RBI also does not provide direct credit to farmers, so this is also wrong. So this statement becomes wrong. The district central cooperative bank and the lead bank IRDP and GRY. Now if you know the structure of cooperative bank in India, there are state cooperative bank at the state level, then you have district cooperative, and then at the bottom you have primary agriculture cooperative society. So it is actually, which we can call them PACS. So PACS are the banks which provide credit directly to the farmer. The other provide state, the cooperative, which is an apex body, which provide to the district, and the district central cooperative banks, they provide to the primary agricultural society. So this would not be the correct option because they are not directly lending to the farmers. It is the primary agricultural cooperative society which are lending to the farmers, and the district cooperative banks only lending to the primary agricultural cooperative society. So you have this option also. The large scale multi-purpose Adivasi program, DCCB, IFCO, and commercial bank. Here also, I don't think IFCO is Indian. This will deal with fertilizer, etc. And it is it does not provide direct credit to the banks. So therefore, I would say, and once again, you also have DCCB here, which I already mentioned that they do not directly lend to the farmer. So both this also option becomes wrong. You're left with option A, which is correct: primary agricultural society, commercial bank, RRB, and private money lenders. So this was your question from the year 1999, and I hope you now know about the hierarchy of the institution in the cooperative sector of the country. So thank you for watching this. This was the last question in today's session. And if you have liked this video, please hit the subscribe button so that every time we release a video, you get a notification and आप इस सीरीज को फॉलो कर सकें और अपने प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन को कंफर्टेबली क्लियर कर सकें. Thank you for watching this video. banoias.